Well, this is quite the headline. This is coming from the LA Times. Dungeons and Dragons and Democratic Socialists, a leftist fundraiser in Hollywood. Imagine that. All the buzzwords. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and politics and how weird it is that the game has become so political in recent years that a lot of the player base, or at least the online voices, definitely lean left in the tabletop space. I blame Tumblr 100%. I blame Critical Role, not necessarily Matt Mercer, but the audience they brought with them from Tumblr. And they've tried to change the history of Dungeons and Dragons and change the player base of Dungeons and Dragons. And it's kind of funny because Hasbro is like a ruthless for-profit company. And I think these people are starting to realize that Hasbro is not their friend. But they're using D&D to raise money for the Democratic Socialists in Hollywood. Imagine that. Imagine that, having Democratic Socialists in Hollywood. We'll talk about this because it is kind of this weird juxtaposition where I personally don't think politics should bleed into the tabletop space or the video game space or the comic book space unless the story absolutely calls for it. Something like Captain America. Yeah, obviously you're going to have, some politics in there, but it is weird how all of these hobbies, these nerd hobbies, have been co-opted over the last decade, especially to be used as mouthpieces for usually the left. Now, if it were right-wingers who took control of a hobby or a platform or whatever it is, there's always pushback, right? If people on the right or people that are more, I guess I wouldn't even say right-wingers. I would say anybody somewhat right of now decides that they like a particular video game. There are all kinds of headlines written by these journalists about how the alt-right's taking over, like Pragmata. Remember Pragmata? That was like a big thing. They're taking that over. They're taking over Stellar Blade, right? Oh my God, they're invading our spaces. You weren't going to buy these games anyway. A lot of these people don't actually buy these games. They want to play these games. They want to talk about these games. They don't want to actually pay for them. Just like comic books. They don't want to pay for them. No, you go torrent your comics, and then you complain about the chuds who actually spend the money on the comic books, complaining that the comic books aren't as good as they used to be. But I digress. We're going to talk about this and just kind of the double standard here, because I remember very well when J.D. Vance, everybody was dogpiling him for playing Magic the Gathering. The people on the right were dogpiling him because they're like, nerd. What a nerd playing these games. But then the media was running with it and being like, we got to keep people like J.D. Vance out of our space. And there were people associated with Wizards of the Coast who are like, hey, I don't want J.D. Vance playing any games I've worked on. I'm like, here's the thing. You sell the game to somebody, it's not your business what their politics are, right? And we've seen like these tabletop companies especially getting so weird about it. I remember, was it Warhammer? I think put in one of their updates to their rule set. I think they put that like you're not allowed to wear Nazi stuff when you're playing Warhammers, and Nazis are bad. Like you have to actually spell that out for people. It's like, come on. And everybody's got to make sure they post the right thing on social media. So basically it's protection. You want, it's like Passover. You want to be passed over. You don't want the cancel culture mob, the online mob, to come for you. So you're gonna virtue signal that you're one of the good guys who believes whatever they believe, just so they leave you alone. I don't think these corporations really believe most of it. They just, and I know they know that these people aren't buying anything. They just want to be left alone. But we'll talk about D&D being used as a fundraiser, and I want to disclaim it. This is not an official Hasbro thing, but it is very indicative of the audience, I think, that has come into the space over the last 10 years. And it's very, very weird to see, especially if you know your history. If you know your history of Dungeons and Dragons, and you know who made Dungeons and Dragons, and you know the political leanings of who made Dungeons and Dragons, not that it should matter, but Gary Gygax was a libertarian. He was a gun-toting, Second Amendment, libertarian, D&D, early D&D especially, I do think in some ways reflects that, which is why I think they've tried so hard to distance themselves over at Wizards of the Coast from Gary Gygax, because, oh golly, he's problematic, which is a horrible thing. Like, we like his product. We're just going to change everything about it. And then in the official 50th anniversary, book they did for D&D, we're going to make sure we throw all those guys under the wheels of the bus. The guys who made sure we had a job. Is it Ben Riggs? Is that the guy who threw the middle-aged men from the Midwest under the bus? But yeah, Gary Gygax was an outspoken libertarian. This is coming from EN World. He was an outspoken libertarian who championed individual freedom, free market principles, and self-reliance. And now his game has been co-opted by socialists. I'm just saying, I don't think he would find it funny. But I could be wrong. We're going to talk about this. Again, this is not an official Hasbro thing. I want to disclaim that. It's just, it's indicative of a bigger issue, which is pop culture being taken for political purposes, being commandeered for political purposes, left and right. Because I'm going to talk about Nintendo, and it's a huge problem that the White House is using Nintendo memes. And I agree. I don't think I think our government needs to take things a little more seriously. We don't need to be trolling people with memes. We don't need to be trolling people with the aliens.gov website and all this crazy shit. Just put the stuff out there. Just put it out there. That's all you got to do. But that's my personal opinion, right? But it's a huge problem if the government, if the White House, if Trump uses Nintendo. But it was totally cool. And in fact, the media loved it when AOC and Biden were doing the Animal Crossing thing. And anytime, celebrity politicians are doing Fortnite. Well, isn't that cool? Hey, how you doing, fellow kids? That's what we're going for. But if somebody on the right does it, oh my God, they're weird. JD Vance is weird because he played Magic the Gathering. I'm just saying. And it's all kinds of messed up. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, no woohoos. Geeky's not here. She gave you a couple of extra woohoos yesterday, though, but she is busy today. Weekends are usually very busy for us. But if you'd like more of us, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com. You can also listen to the audio version of Clownfish TV. You can take us with you wherever you listen to audio podcasts. We do have audio episodes up out there as well. So let's talk about this. Again, knowing that Gary Gygax was definitely a libertarian. He definitely had conservative-ish leanings. But there is a distinction between libertarians and like actual conservatives. Just putting it out there as somebody who is a libertarian himself, there are some differences. But again, if you're not with us, you're against us. That's how some people see things. This comes from the LA Times. So the LA Times is running an article about how great it is that the socialists are using D&D to raise money. Only in Hollywood, right? Dungeons & Dragons and Democratic Socialists, a leftist fundraiser in Hollywood. So candidates endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America played an election-themed Dungeons & Dragons game, raising $30,000 for their local campaigns. The event was aimed at engaging voters with the DSA's progressive politics. So it says Democratic Socialists won a decisive victory in Hollywood, albeit on a political battlefield few politicians have tread. Dressed in witch hats and long green robes and bathed in spooky red lights, 6 far-left candidates in the LA municipal elections on June 2nd played an election-themed Dungeons & Dragons game at the Fonda Theater. The Fondas. Before 400 people were there. Wow. In the event, starring candidates endorsed by the LA chapter of Democratic Socialists of America. That's an actual party. Like, is that an actual party, the Democratic Socialists of America? I don't want to hear anybody complain, because I actually am registered with the Libertarian Party, and everybody's like, that's such a joke because you're never going to get anybody on the ballot. I don't want to freaking hear it, man. Maybe we should play D&D or something, but I don't want to hear it. They raised $30,000 in campaign contributions, small change compared to the millions of dollars hauled in at the star-studded fundraisers in LA for Democrats, of course. But this event was less about hauling in cash than about gauging D&D aficionados with the DSA's progressive politics. Again, I just want to remind you, Gary Gygax, co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, was an outspoken libertarian who championed individual freedom, free market principles, and self-reliance. Just putting that out there. He would think these guys rolled a 1. Okay. It was exciting to introduce our slate of candidates to a wider audience, said Leslie Chang, co-chair of the Socialist Group's LA chapter. Cami Arkhaven, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, sorry about that, managing director of the USC Dornsife Center for the Political, what is this? USC Dornsife Center for the Political Future, said the unconventional nature of the event creates community between voters and their candidates, getting them invested in the race and making them more likely to donate, vote, and get their friends and family involved. You know where the money comes from? Free market capitalism. People with money tend to donate. And how do you get that money? Well, usually you have to work for it. And then other people just want to take it. I don't think that works. It's a very one-sided relationship, but I digress. Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role-play. They have to explain what D&D is. Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game where players create fancy characters and roll dice to determine whether their actions, like a sword attack or a persuasive argument, are successful against their foes. I love how they've turned D&D into a debate simulator and a cozy game. No, you stab the fucking orc. That's what you do. Orc's bad. Anyway, it's also tied in tightly. Yes. Okay. This is the problem. This right here, they're saying it. They're saying the quiet part out loud. Dungeons and Dragons. This is coming from the LA Times. Dungeons and Dragons is also tied in tightly with the leftist movement. Attending DSA members said, fulfilling the ideological patterns of coming up with ways to save the world as a small group of individuals fighting powers bigger than themselves. One more time for the people in the back. Gary Gygax, co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, was an outspoken libertarian who championed individual freedom, free market principles, and self-reliance. His broader political and cultural outlook was defined by strict traditionalism, biological determinism, and a vocal opposition to modern social movements and political correctness. Again, according to Ian World. But that tracks with everything I've heard about him. And he was a pretty good guy, too. I've heard he was a very good guy. But if you got him talking about politics, he had himself on an FBI watch list. They're like, this motherfucker's crazy. he's like anti-government. Like he's like on a watch list. It was wild. Some of the candidates' fantasy characters were literal. Council member Hugo Soto Martinez, a labor organizer running for re-election, was a barbarian named Hugo the Organizer. Oh my God, how creative. Using his righteous indignation to organize workers. Oh God, this is cringy. Estuardo, I'm gonna mangle the name. I'm not even gonna try. Okay, who was running to replace Curran Price in a South LA district, meowed through the game as he was playing a purple striped humanoid cat person named Nine Lives E. Marissa Roy, DSA's pick for city attorney, played a gavel-carrying paladin looking to uphold the law. To her left, Councilmember Eunice Hernandez played a druidic dragon that owned a cannabis dispensary and lit city lights with her lightning breath. Okay, that's kind of fun. I'm sure she's great at parties, really. With two magical allies. This guy is challenging Tracy. I don't know who any of these people are. I don't know who these people are, but it's in the LA Times. The LA Times is like, hey, socialists love D&D. They saved homes from being bulldozed by corporate villains. They use spells and legal reasoning. They rallied the community to defeat a greedy dragon and use his gold hoard to rebuild the city. I should run for office on the libertarian ticket, and I should mention repeatedly that Gary Gygax was a libertarian. The guy who helped co-create Dungeons and Dragons. Yes. Anyway, when players would roll poorly, audience members could donate $20 to allow them to re-roll, or $50 to have them automatically succeed. Oh my God. Grifters! Cheaters! As Roy turned her gavel into a warhammer to defeat the dragon, one supporter shouted out that he'd pay $150 for her to do maximum damage. That sounds very capitalistic of you, doesn't it? Whoever pays the most to get the results they want. Isn't that capitalism? Isn't that how it works? Is that how corporations work? They pay more than the rest of us to get what they want from the government. Isn't that how that works? It's kind of self-defeating, isn't it? I'm just saying. Pay to win, motherfucker. That is the libertarian way. That is a libertarian way. All right, Eric Parsons, 41 of Westwood, called D&D and socialism his two favorite things. The game is inherently a communal experience where everyone is working together. D&D players faced ridicule for being outside of the expected norm for years before it entered the public consciousness. Yes, and that's when they started making it weirdly political, because nobody really knew what Gary Gygax's politics were unless you really looked into Gary Gygax, right? Most people didn't, because the games were fairly apolitical. Just, you could add politics if you wanted to. You always had the corrupt, mayor of whatever city and that sort of thing going on. But like, it wasn't overtly political. And now people in this space are getting canceled for not being political enough. I'm sorry. Canceled for not being left-wing enough, not being socialist enough. So this actually does kind of explain why D&D is so damn weird now, because I think we have had people come in who are diametrically opposed to what the creators of Dungeons and Dragons set out to make. And they're coming in and they're sort of twisting it to again, fit their worldview. And this is not an official Hasbro thing. I get it. But you do see this a lot. You see a lot of this mindset. You go out to any of the message boards, or most of the message boards anyway, in the tabletop space, and there definitely is it's not even left wing. It's not even like your run-of-the-mill Democrat. It's like very, very far left politics have somehow infiltrated Dungeons and Dragons, a game created by an outspoken libertarian. Please make this make sense. I'm sure it probably does. And somebody's going to write some manifesto, haha, in the comments, and they're going to explain it to me like this is always part of the plan. I'm just thinking that for some reason, and this might explain just kind of why the nerd space is so left-wing anyway. I think a lot of people who are outcasts in society, for whatever reason, find solace in fandom and nerd culture. And that's also how a lot of, I think, these political movements pick people up, right? Do you feel like you don't belong? Do you feel like the world's out to get you? Do you feel like things aren't fair? Do you feel like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, that's because the world is unfair and you should be a socialist, because, communism and socialism always work out so great for the, one or two people in charge. Everybody else, you're gonna be sucking dirt. That's what you're gonna be doing. You're gonna be rolling a one every day, so the people at the top get to have it their way, right? The game is 5 decades old and it has seen a resurgence of popularity in recent years, partially due to Stranger Things, Dimension 20, and Critical Role. Yes, that is when things started changing. They're talking about Brennan Lee Mulligan has been oh my God. Okay, here we go, guys. Mulligan has been a member of the Democratic Socialists of America since 2013. He starred in a political ad for the DSA highlighting the 6 candidates and has run other D&D games for political purposes, arguing that it is more important than ever to get the word out about the current slate of candidates. So wait a second. We have one of the guys who's a big wig in the live play D&D space being a very vocal supporter of the Democratic Socialists of America and using that to try to recruit people to the Democratic Socialists of America. But again, JD Vance plays Magic the Gathering, doesn't endorse it, doesn't make it political, but that is a problem. You know what I'm saying? AOC uses Animal Crossing. Biden uses, they have like Biden Island. They use Animal Crossing. They make it political, like explicitly political. And that's okay. The media loves it. But Trump does some Nintendo memes, which I think are very cringy, right? And I really would like our government to just, be our government and not do this stupid 4chan shit, but whatever. But that's a huge problem, But the Animal Crossing the Biden Island, that's not, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear what's happening here. Do I need to say it one more time? Gary Gygax, co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, was an outspoken libertarian who championed individual freedom, free market principles, and self-reliance. And he would not be happy with this shit at all. Anyway, Mulligan says, we are very lucky that we get to tell stories about heroes going in and saving the world, and it makes it very special to be here with people that are saving this city. I actually played D&D very differently, which is how I knew I was a libertarian. My goal playing Dungeons and Dragons, beyond having fun with my friends, was, well, usually I was a dungeon master, so, I had to do all the homework. But in the off chance I did get to play, it was all about getting as much money as I could get out of the monsters. That was my goal. Like, the more money, and that's how it was played originally. I know it's hard to believe, but whoever had the most treasure won. Whoever survived to explore the next dungeon won. That was winning, not let's go save the world and let's see if we can talk to the orcs instead of stabbing them because we're good people and we'll convince them that they're actually socialists and the bad wizard capitalist is keeping them down or whatever shit, crazy shit. We're going to make them all people. All the monsters are people too. No, how we played it originally was you killed everything in your path. You took its gold, you hoarded it. You built yourself a little fortress, you retired. That was the goal. The goal of original Dungeons and Dragons was to live to see retirement and then to retire well in your little fortress or castle or wizard tower or whatever. And there actually were rules for that. Like, here's how you retire your character when you get to like level 20 or whatever. That's what you did. But no. Now we play as cat people. It's like the audience was filled with DSA and D&D fans of like leftist beliefs and the fantasy behind D&D. Or no. The audience was filled with D&D or DSA and D&D fans. Leftist beliefs in the fantasy. They're saying leftism is fantasy. Leftist beliefs in the fantasy behind D&D are intrinsically intertwined, said Nicholas Burns, a 30-year-old DSA member from Orange County. Oh my God. Gary Gygax, co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, was an outspoken libertarian who championed individual freedom, free market principles, and self-reliance. His broader political and cultural outlook was defined by strict traditionalism, biological determinism, and a vocal opposition to modern social movements and political correctness. No, Nicholas, you do not understand the assignment. Maybe 5e, maybe the bastardized version that Wizards has put out is, and they threw the D&D brand on it. Maybe that is, a leftist beliefs and fantasy and whatever shit you want to, but it used to be about killing the dragon, taking the gold, stopping the orcs from raping your women. We used, that was a whole thing. It was, he said it gives players a chance to imagine what's possible and take down threats bigger than themselves, a goal echoed by DSA's efforts to push corporate interests away from politics. It's about fighting the dragons. All right, so this was very educational because I've wondered, like, how did D&D and tabletop just become so infested with very far left people? And again, I'm not talking your run-of-the-mill Democrats. I'm not talking people that lean left. I'm talking the most outspoken people in the hobby right now are like card-carrying socialists. It's weird. And that explains so much. I mean, it really does. It really does, because if you've got, people that are hyper political in this space and actually playing the game with the intention of trying to basically recruit, which apparently that Mulligan guy is doing, I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to be far left. And, but then, on the right side of things, it's like, I don't want to hear it because right wingers think all this nerd shit's weird. They think it's weird. It's weird to be into nerd stuff. It's weird to be into comic books. it's weird to watch cartoons or collect action figures or whatever. And then so all the left-wingers come in and take it over because the right-wingers were told it was weird and you should grow the hell up and get yourself a smoking jacket and learn to go shoot animals in the face. That read your Bible 3 or 4 times a day. That's what you're supposed to do if you're a right-winger. So yes, of course, all these spaces have been taken over, but they've gone further and further left. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't give a shit what your politics are, but if you're at the gaming table or whatever, and you're just playing games, just have fun, play games. But if you're using anything, and I'm going to say on either side of the aisle, I'm going to say, but the right wingers too, if you're using it to turn it into some political thing, to literally raise money, I think it's pretty gross, personally. And this is why everything's in the state that it's in right now. Just play the freaking game. Just have fun. Play the game. Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. That's my little rant. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.